Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Daily Apple Clinic podcast, The Truth About Health. My name is Paul Reynolds. My wife and I have an independent primary care practice in Denver, Colorado. We are nurse practitioners, having worked in a variety of healthcare settings over the past 20 years, and we have a deep desire to make healthcare better. Our goal here is to ask difficult questions and challenge the conventional thinking that currently exists in the healthcare space. And we especially hope to help all of our listeners think about their health and live better. We try to have fun too. Please check out the show notes below to find useful links and information about our guests. You can find us on the main social media channels, and you can always check us out at www.dailyappledpc.com or give us a call anytime. Here's what's in store on today's podcast. Welcome to the Daily Apple Clinic podcast, The Truth About Health. Today we're joined by a truly extraordinary guest, Richard Efird. Richard is someone I've had the privilege of knowing for over 40 years. We served together on a Special Forces A team, the Green Berets, a Scuba team no less. Through the years, Richard and I have remained close friends, even tackling I think it was a 300-mile bike ride a few years back. Richard's story is incredible. He grew up in North Carolina, followed in his father's footsteps by joining the Army. After assignments with the 82nd Airborne Division and our Special Forces unit, he rose through the ranks, eventually becoming a Command Sergeant Major in the Special Forces Operations Command. A Ranger School honor graduate, Richard completed some of the military's toughest training programs during his 30-year career. Now retired for 23 years, he's found passion and purpose in long-distance cycling, meeting people from small-town America and prioritizing his family and health. I'm excited to dive into Richard's life experiences, gain his perspective on health and wellness, and share some stories that will inspire and entertain you. And knowing Richard, we'll definitely share a few laughs along the way. So grab your earbuds and get ready for a conversation you won't forget. Hey, Richard, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, doing just fine, Paul. It's good to see you again. Once again, Happy New Year's coming up here in a couple days.
As always, have you had a good year? Things going well for you?
Yeah, both the wife and I are doing just fine.
All right. Okay. Why don't we jump into some questions? I think I'd like to start out with some background, some career highlights. Tell us what inspired you to follow your father into the military, and how did that shape your sense of purpose?
You know, my dad was my role model. When we talk about people that have influence on your life, he's obviously the number one guy. He was also in
Mm.
the military, and same thing, an airborne ranger, special forces guy. I
Oh, wow.
grew up living on or near Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And it was a pretty easy choice for me to join the military. I was in high school working at an oil filter company, Purelator, making 15 to 18,000 oil filters per night. And, it just
Wow.
came to me, said, okay, is this what I want to do? If I was still in high school. Is this what I want to do? And so I tell the story
Okay.
that I was going to work. I had to be there, if I remember, about 20 to 4. And instead of making a left, I took a right, went down to the recruiter and said, sign me up. And that was
That
like
was it.
about 4 o'clock. He said, be back here at 7, get on the bus. And that's how it started. My
Oh,
dad
my
also
gosh.
continued to influence me when he was in the Special Forces community. One of the
Mm.
jobs, as you know, there at SWIC, our schoolhouse, he was on the
Hmm.
weapons committee, and he'd let me skip
Hmm.
school as a young kid, at 10, 12 years old. So about that time, we'd go out on the range, and I was qualified from the 38 caliber pistol all the way up to the 4 deuce mortar by the time I was about 12. So that had a direct impact.
That is an early start. So the Special Forces training pipeline is notoriously grueling. What was the most challenging part for you, and how did you push through?
You know, you also being a special forces Green Beret guy, you know how grueling that course is. And for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
Camp McCall Phase One was obviously the hardest, I think. As you know,
Mm,
they just keep adding stuff on you, taking food away from you, sleep deprivation. It just gets tougher and tougher as it goes along. But, and
mm,
you'll hear me say this comment throughout the interview, mental toughness and self discipline. Those are two
mm,
things that get me through and have gotten me through a lot of tough places.
mm. I remember even when we were in the courses, uh, everybody referred to the fact that it was a mental toughness journey. It was mostly in your head that if you thought you could do it, you could move through it. Uh, I I'd have to 100% agree with you on that. Yeah, so scuba qualification, that's another additional qualification. Folks may not understand. You're going through a series of qualifications as you're going to these various schools in the military. So scuba is its own separate special little school. And actually, our scuba team did the pre-scuba class for scuba school for the entire group. I don't know. There must have been maybe 100 folks, maybe 120 guys that were in pre-scuba. I bet you only 20 or 30 of us actually got to go to scuba school. It was, I mean, we lost a ton of people right there.
Yeah.
So tell me, do you have any funny stories or any maybe terrifying stories from your time on the team?
Well, a lot of people don't realize we call it the scuba school. It's, combat diver, and that's what it is. And it
Mm-hmm.
was by far the hardest course I have gone to throughout my military career. And that leads what you're saying. People who
Mm-hmm.
don't know, when you volunteer to go to scuba school, there is a scuba team at your home station that trains you up in what they call pre scuba. And you do
Mm-hmm.
everything there except breathe compressed air. And it is very demanding. And if I
Mm-hmm.
remember my little class that started off, there was 23 of us that started off, and three of us finished that.
Wow.
But
Wow.
what it did, as you know, it made it so that when you got down to Key West, it was a breeze to get through that training down there.
Right.
Um, I can tell you one terrifying story about scubaing in, and as you know, it's always at night. And
Mm-hmm.
most people think of scubaing as in snorkels and little shorts and t-shirt. As you
No.
know, Paul, it's in full military
All
uniform,
right. You
all your
right.
equipment strapped to you, your weapons strapped to
Mm-hmm.
your side, and between you and another diver, you're dragging the rucksack in between you or wearing it
Mm-hmm.
on your back if you're wearing the rebreathers. But one night,
Right.
coming scubaing into off the coast of Panama, and it's at night, you're just following a little compass, and you're going to hit the beach at some place.
Mm-hmm.
That compass, remember, was only in 5-degree increments. So you were just getting close. And we hit this
Right.
wall of coral. I mean, it was just a
Wow.
vertical wall right in front of us. And we were
Mm-hmm.
probably 25 feet deep at the time. So we
Right.
all stopped. You remember, you're all tied in together in what they call a
And
Budweiser line.
right.
We
Mm-hmm.
started literally climbing up this wall of coral, got up on top of it. The waves are crashing in on us.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably knee deep trying to move. We probably had a couple 100 meters, several football fields to get to the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue was, as you started walking, at times the coral would open up and you would just drop 10, 15 feet back down to the water. Everybody's
Right.
climbing.
Because you had to take your fins off. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to walk, carry your fins. Finally, I told, hey, take the Budweiser line off and everybody just make it to the shore. I
Meet you
mean,
there.
it was, we were lucky no one got seriously hurt. Everybody got a
Right.
little cut up and stuff, but then
Hmm.
waves crashing down on you, trying to lug that stuff across all that uneven coral, dropping through
Right.
holes. Anyway, that was a
Oh
fun
my gosh.
thing.
Yeah, I remember coming in one time, and so scuba is a means of infiltration. It's a way to get to the target, and I remember, so we're wearing big heavy gloves, and I remember crawling in one time, and we're coming in over some coral, and you got this steel tank on your back plus all your weights and everything else, and I put my hand down on some sea urchins, and those barbs went right through that leather, and I had a handful of sea urchin barbs. I mean, we were just crawling in, and it was just, oh my gosh! And those things hurt for a long time. They do not just like pop out. But pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so leadership roles. So you kept going. I left the service after 4 years, but you kept going. There's a part of me that just really wishes I would have stayed in. That somebody would have knocked some sense into me, and I would have gone ahead and completed what I did. In fact, I had a college degree at the time, and I probably could have gone to OCS, could have had a nice career in the military, but I didn't. But so, what motivated you to pursue leadership roles in the special forces, and how did those experiences prepare you for life after the military?
Yeah. Let me start off by just telling people too that well, Paul Reynolds showed up on the scuba team down there, and he could have been a poster for SF recruiting. Big, tall, handsome man, and just a chunk of chiseled muscle there. So, Paul, you were definitely an asset. Well, I'll tell you what, I was always taught through high school, through my dad, and early on in my Army career to catch the man in front of you, to always seek higher responsibility and authority. Uh, that stuff continued on after my time in the career in the military with leadership, with a positive attitude, take charge, and be a role model.
All right. Well, and being an honor grad at Ranger School is no small feat. Again, so Ranger School, for the folks that don't have any sense of what a ranger is, much less the school that you have to go through to get this tab, to get this qualification. Rangers are the folks that they'll be given a mission. They work as a small team, but it's really you're on the ground, and you got an objective in mind, and you just go take that target. And they can do it by a variety of means. You can talk much more about this, but I had a few friends who um, uh, came over to the house after they finished Ranger School, and these guys, they were walking skeletons. These guys were. They do not feed you anything for a month or two, and they just push you. They just push. There, you talk about sleep deprivation, and you graduated your course as the top graduate. So, how did you prepare for that, and what lessons have stayed with you?
Yeah, I'll tell you, like you said, the Ranger Force, they're the world's premier light infantry forces. They're highly
Mm,
trained, highly led. They work not only on the white side, the unclassified side, but they also work on the classified side with the tier one units. They're top notch guys. Um,
mm,
I had prior service. I mean, prior training in the 82nd there. I always went the 82nd Airborne Division. I always tried to go to the hard challenging schools. I learned my trade pretty good. Recondo School was a small mini Ranger course, but
mm,
I knew my skill pretty good as an infantry guy. Uh, and I wanted, as the Army used to say, be, know, do. Be the best that you can be at your job.
mm,
Know your job inside and out, and then do it. Uh,
mm. And now a word from our sponsor. Are you tired of sitting in traffic? Sick of overpriced gym memberships where all you get is that one treadmill that squeaks? Introducing cross-country bicycling. It's not just a workout, it's a full-body adventure. Wind in your face, bugs in your teeth, and the thrill of asking yourself daily, why did I think this was a good idea? Get ready to explore America's finest landscapes, one overly ambitious hill at a time. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll maybe scream at a raccoon who refuses to move off the trail. But hey, who needs comfort when you got glorious stories to tell at every family dinner until you're 90? Cross-country bicycling for the bold, the brave, and those who really like padded shorts. Pedal your way to a healthier you. Disclaimer, may cause sudden urges to eat trail mix by the pound and call yourself a free spirit. Consult your knees before starting.
After Ranger School and after getting out of the military, a lot of those skills and traits still fall right over with the leadership that you provide for people and then
Mm,
helping people. I like helping people.
right, right. And I'm guessing that's really followed you into civilian life. So let's talk a little how you transitioned after 30 years. That is a long time. After retiring, and that was 23 years ago, what was the hardest adjustment to civilian life?
Uh, I got to tell you, finished up retired there at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I decided I was
Mm,
going to live out here in the Black Hills of South Dakota, just south of Custer.
mm.
And we built a house out here, had a guy build it for us, and we moved door to door from Fort Bragg out here to Custer and moved out here in January in the heart of the winter. So the toughest transition for me was living with the wife 24/7. Okay. I mean, those last few jobs that I had in the military, I was gone around the world checking on them special operations guys. So we
Sure.
sat there in the house looking at one another for 24/7. And after about a month, the wife says, one of us has got to go to work. And I said, well, it's not going to be me. So it was just a tough adjustment. Nothing real
Right,
difficult, but it was a different type adjustment.
right. Yeah, I think that's something that people don't really understand about a lot of military families. There are some where your job is it's sort of a 9 to 5 type of thing. You rarely deploy, but not special ops. You are gone. You are gone. You are gone. Maybe
Yeah.
10, 11 months out of the year. You're just always deployed. So um, uh, we're glad you made that transition well. And Carla didn't go crazy with having you around all the time. So you mentioned that family and health are your priorities. How did those priorities evolve over time?
The Army has a saying, accomplish the mission or the welfare of the troops. And there's no
Mm,
correct answer. They both go hand in hand. And so that
mm,
was just an adjustment with the wife, and we just adjusted, and it worked out very well for us. It's hasn't been an issue. Yeah.
right. Now so special ops, especially. I think I read that only about 15% of the people in the military are actually in the combat arms portion, and so they're picking up guns or actually putting themselves in serious harm's way. And special ops is then in a class all by itself, and it's extremely physically challenging. And in that process, you have been classified as 100% disabled with all the different injuries that have occurred over the years. How do you balance the physical limitations of being disabled with your love of long distance cycling?
You're right. It does take a toll on people. It's
Mm,
physically demanding. You're trying to go through some of that right now and get some benefits, and I
mm,
wish you luck
I
on
am.
that. It just takes its toll on me. Neck, back, feet, hearing, all that type stuff.
Mm,
I used to do a lot of long distance hiking, but that started aggravating some of those injuries. So a guy asked me about biking. And I said, well, I've never done any biking, short 1 week long tours, just exercise. And so I picked up the phone, called a place up in Rapid City, about 50 miles from here. They had some bikes on sale. Said, hey, you got any left? I said, yep. I said, I'll be up there tomorrow, pulling one aside. And that's how it started. It's a way for me to still continue to exercise in a low impact form, and
Mm,
it's a good workout.
right. Yeah, that's something I've actually told these guys that I've been talking to as they're doing these evaluations on me. If I don't do something, I'm in a world of hurt. I have to keep moving and I have to do something, or man, that pain just, I mean, the pain's bad enough just all by itself, you know. But if you don't keep moving, man, your body will just, it'll just seize up and it just won't work anymore, and it just gets really painful. So, so when when you're on a team, you develop an intense camaraderie with the people that you're with. You, how do I say this without swearing? You eat, sleep, poop, drink, walk, everything. You know, you're just you and that team. They're more than family to you. You don't know anything else. They're everything to you. And how do you think the camaraderie you experienced in the military has influenced you and the way you connect with people as you've gone out on these cycling journeys?
Yeah, Paul, you're exactly right. In the regular army, especially when you're deployed someplace, there is a unique
Mm-hmm.
bond, that a lash up. But when you get into
Mm-hmm.
the special ops community, especially the special forces, first off, as you remember, rank didn't
Mm-hmm.
mean too much. We all know who was in charge. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was a team player. Everybody pitched in, and don't want to offend anybody, but you remember, and you and I are a perfect example. Wives come
Mm-hmm.
and go, but team members stay forever. There is a very unique there is a very unique bond there. Look, this cycling crowd, they have similar same goals as we did. It was to get out there, accomplish the mission, whatever the ride was, to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
exercise. And once you get into this cycling community, it's a very unique subculture out there. I was
Right.
surprised the first time I rode on a week long tour, similar to one we did up in North Dakota. The age of the people, and maybe you saw that too. I was expecting a
Mm.
younger crowd, but really
Right.
it's a fairly senior crowd.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I'd say I was surprised myself. I, I I guess maybe some of the older folks, they actually have time to train for these things.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't understand, what I didn't understand was, and what you told me was, look, if you want to go on a ride, you need to make sure at a minimum that you have ridden that bike for the number of miles that you're going to ride in the past month. And I thought, I haven't even come close to that. And you know, when we did that ride, my knees just blew up like balloons, and I was eating ibuprofen like nobody's business trying to get through that ride. And I was hobbling off to the tent at night, you know. But you got to train for these things, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't just start and just happen. You definitely have
Right.
to train up to it.
Hmm. And of course, Monica and I, we also know your wonderful wife. Tell us a little bit about the role she plays in supporting you and your health and your adventurous spirit.
I'm a lucky man. I brag to everybody. I've
Mm,
married a good woman here. She takes excellent care of me, and she has never once flinched when I want to take
mm,
off and do some of these adventures. I mentioned before I started off doing a lot of long distance hiking, and I'd be gone for 5 months, and she never flinched. Many times she would carry me out to point A and drop me off, and then keep sending me resupply packages. Um, but she's always supported me. Uh,
mm,
I came back off a week long ride And I said, "Hey, I want to ride across the country. Carry me out to the West Coast, north of
Mm,
Seattle. This one trail called the Northern Tier, all the way across to Maine." And she didn't
mhm.
flinch. Yeah, come on, let's go. So she
Let's
has
do it.
supported me nonstop
Mhm.
throughout my adventures.
Right. We've talked a little bit about kind of what inspired you and wanted your reasons for getting started, but how has it changed your perspective on life?
I think just getting out there and talking to people, there's just good, solid people out here across this country. We have a beautiful country right here. Get out and see it
Mm,
and enjoy it.
mm,
Uh, there's just good, solid people out there. Contrary to
mhm.
what we see and hear a lot of times on the news and
Right.
social media, there'll always be that 10%, but I can generally identify those guys early on. So,
Mm, right. Do you have any memorable interactions with any of those locals during your solo rides across America?
yeah, I've done 5 cross-country
Wow.
rides. I always do them by myself. That's just the way I
Mm,
like doing it. There are
mhm,
so many examples, Paul, of people, once they find out what you're doing, all they wanna do is help. There's kind of an
mm,
unwritten rule in the hiking, biking community. You don't go and ask for help because you took this
mm.
on your own. But if
Right,
somebody
right.
but if somebody offers you help and it will help you accomplish the mission, you gladly accept that. There's been many, many examples. All they want to do is help, like I said, food, shelter, uh, give you directions. There's one that I'd like to talk about just briefly. I was cross country trip. I was someplace in Michigan. I pulled into a little town to get something to eat. It was getting the afternoon time period. And I was sitting there eating. I was watching the TV, and a major, major storm was coming off Lake Michigan, if I remember.
Mm.
And I looked at the woman there at the bar and said, "That's going to hit us." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I got to get out of here and find a place to shelter up." I just carry a little pack on my back and a small little bedroll.
Mhm.
In our community, it doesn't bother me to lay down and go to sleep on the ground. So I found a
Mhm.
little overhang on the back of the community center, and the fire department was next to it. I saw the sirens were going, the engines were going in and out on calls. A couple guys were outside smoking, and one of them saw me. I would have my bike propped up against the wall and just sitting on the ground, and it was lightly raining at that time. He come over and we started up a conversation, and he
Mhm.
says, "When's the last time you had a bath?" And I always try to, I always try
Why did you ask that question?
I always
Kind
try
of
to
a
camp near
what
water to wash off, rinse my clothes. I said, "Well, the other night I jumped in the lake." He says, "There's a shower up in the top of the fire department. Go up there and take you a shower." So I did.
Okay.
I felt
Right.
100% better. It's getting real late afternoon. And he says, "Where are you going to stay tonight?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go up the road and jump off in the woods. Stealth camp is the way I like to do that." He says, "I tell you what," he says, "you go up in that direction, branch off on this road." He owned a piece of property and he had a small shed there. He says, "You can sleep in that shed," because it was still supposed to storm that night. I said, "Okay, I'll
Mm,
take you up on that." I found the shed.
sure.
I had to move some stuff around so I could lay down in there. And it was just a nice, enjoyable night. In the
Mm,
morning, I wrote a nice little note to that guy, put all the stuff back in there, and left it on
mm,
top of the seat of the lawnmower so he could find it. That's just
mhm,
one example. Whenever I
mhm,
can, I get the name and the address of people who have helped me in one way or another. And at the
mm.
next stop, I'll write them a postcard or a letter and just thank them. Once again, Paul, just good, solid people out there.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, really, I think authentic is
Exactly.
probably a good way to describe that. Just these are real interactions you're having with real good people, and I mean that's got to just it's just got to change the way you feel about yourself and everybody around you. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to the Daily Apple Clinic podcast, the truth about health. Please click the share link and make our content available to friends and family. And don't forget to click the subscribe button so you'll get new episodes delivered directly to you as soon as we release them. As always, your comments are welcome. Please do your best to be kind and include ideas that will help everyone as they think about their health. You can always find us through our website, www.dailyappledpc.com. Give us a call anytime if we can answer questions or be of assistance. Here's a short clip to give you a taste of what's in store on next week's podcast.
There was this Australian guy at the end of the ride downtown getting something to eat. And everybody normally is in their riding jerseys and their shorts. You've seen that. Uh,
Yeah.
well, this guy was standing there and he was just having a ball with his heavy Australian accent. His riding attire was a loincloth.
Take good care and see you next week.